We're talking about the vaccine mandate for those in the military. Well, as you know, last week President Biden announced his unconstitutional overreach with a vaccine mandate for pretty much the whole country. I mean, it's for anyone, any federal contractor, any person working in the federal government, and sticking his hand into the private sector. Companies with 100 or more employees. Now, he's going to use OSHA to enforce this. Employees who refuse or who don't submit to a regular, costly test could be fired. And businesses who refuse could face crippling fines. Now, there are several states that are gearing up. Yesterday, we talked to the Attorney General of Arizona. They've already filed a lawsuit. But the Buckeye State, under the leadership of Attorney General Dave Yost, they're gearing up for a fight as well, and he joins us now. General Yost, thanks so much for joining us today.
It's good to see you.
All right, what are you doing to prepare to defend the businesses and the people of Ohio against this Biden overreach?
Well, we're obviously preparing for what the president said he wanted to do, which seems to me clearly beyond his authority. But it's important to know that we don't have a regulation yet, so we don't have anything to bring to court to sue about. You can't sue over a press release. Now, that being said, I suspect that there are multiple grounds that could be raised here, but starting with the fact that Congress writes the laws, not the president. He doesn't get to govern by dictate. And beyond that, health is not really the issue. That's not a power that belongs to the federal government at all. Throughout our history, health issues have been considered to be part of the police power that belongs to the states and not the federal government.
What do you think the prospects are? I mean, there's over half the states that are ready to fight this. What do you think the prospects are for the states in court challenging this mandate?
Look, I think they're excellent. Some of the things that people have been talking about, on background and comments that you see float, I'm sure you've seen them floating in the Washington press corps and everything. They kind of get that they're not allowed to do this. They're just counting on it taking too much time in the court system to be able to actually get there.
Yeah. And that's disturbing because that's not just in this case. That's done a lot of times. They know they don't have the legal authority, but they do it knowing that it'll be in the courts forever, and they're just hoping that the courts won't stay it, meaning they won't keep it from going into effect. And by the time it actually gets to court, people will have forgotten about it and become accustomed to the overreach.
Well, that's the strategy, and I suspect that when we actually have a regulation we can take to court, me and the other attorneys general that'll be working on this are going to ask for a stay or a temporary restraining order so this doesn't go into effect. Right now, it's not in effect. If your employer asks you to roll up your sleeve and take the jab, they're not doing it because of the federal mandate, and don't let them tell you they are. Now, if it's their policy, that's a separate issue, but they're not doing it because they have to. There is no federal law today. And of course, I should mention that the federal employees are under the control of the president. It's pretty well established that he has the ability to set terms and conditions of employment subject to certain limitations.
Right, but going into the private sector, that's a whole new area.
It is.
And we're already seeing, the disruption in the supply chain. And I know Ohio is, part of that, a lot of manufacturing, cars, steel, all of that. Shortage of employees. When you have people who are saying, look, I'm not going to do this, and they're fired, they're terminated, they go on unemployment, it only shortens the workforce that's out there and only further disrupts the supply chain.
That's right. And if this were to go into effect, it would wreck the economy because I know that there are people who will choose to become unemployed and stay out of the workforce rather than submit to this edict. That means the labor shortage is further exacerbated. I know people right now here in Ohio that are not accepting new contracts, not doing business that they have the opportunity to do, simply because they don't have enough of a workforce to be able to produce the goods or services.
You know, one thing that's not being talked about in the media regarding this action by President Biden is how much, more than any other president, he's been using executive orders to accomplish his agenda. Now, they were critical of President Trump, but he left President Trump way behind when it comes to the use of executive orders.
And here's the thing, executive orders are meant to determine the conduct of the federal government, not to control the general population. The difference between a democracy and a monarchy or a dictatorship is that in a democracy, laws have to be written by a representative body, Congress or a parliament. In a monarchy or a dictatorship, one executive decides what the rules are and they enforce them. That is just fundamentally opposite our constitutional order.
Excellent point. General Yost. Out of time, I want to get you back on to talk about what you're doing in the state of Ohio to fight the critical race theory in the classrooms there, that indoctrination that's taking place across America. Always great to talk with you, General Yost. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.